Craigslist even getting products in and out of the system because of the cables going bad. Getting real frustrated with it.
Their cables connected through like Charter or through the, their computers connected through Charter? Okay.
Also, do you know about the insurance deal that's coming through? They're requiring like higher costs for that and everything.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Are people required to carry insurance now?
Yep, we talked about this just a little bit. One item specifically was this joint and several liability issue. That issue was removed from the budget discussions, and now it's a separate bill. But as part of the state budget, the governor and the legislators who voted for the budget adopted about 7 or 8 changes to insurance policies, automobile insurance policy in the state of Wisconsin. And unfortunately, again, I would argue that it should not have been done in the state budget. And very little understanding and public input was received by anybody on these issues, and yet many of them are law.
Like a lot of these get slid through at midnight, like when the holidays are over on the weekend or something. No one gets a chance to talk about it.
One of the 5 or 6 items that was approved as part of the budget is actually something that I support, and that is the new requirement that we now have mandatory insurance in Wisconsin. I think it's reasonable to say that if you're going to operate a vehicle in Wisconsin, you should be able to prove that you're insured. And so that's called a mandatory insurance. Right now, only Wisconsin was one of only 3 states that did not require that mandated insurance. So I actually support that. But unfortunately, that was pulled into the state budget as well, and it shouldn't have been part of the budget.
Kind of what relates to that too, and when people are starting to talk about that, I think it's like bad laws that are passed, or like the credit rating system. Now, employers have this fire at will in the state, which is really, I think, a bad idea. And then it's related to your credit rating. Now, your credit rating, you don't have work because a lot of people are unemployed. Unemployment rate 10 year, 15 in Michigan. Now you got people trying to drive around, trying to maintain their cars. They can't maintain their cars. They can't keep up with EPA. They can't keep up with insurance. They can't keep up with a job. They don't have a job. They're trying to get a job. Now they got bad credit because they don't have a job. It goes circular, and it's affecting all these areas, and you're landing people in jail. True. Problems. I think something is short-sighted when they pass these laws. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that should have been discussed, if any discussion was had on this mandate, would have been, is this really the best time to do that?
Right.
Because of the state of the economy, and people who have insurance right now are struggling to maintain that payment and that monthly payment or whatever. And now, and what's worse is because not only did we now mandate that you have insurance, but as is spelled out here in the booklet, we actually, again, those who voted for the budget, we now have higher mandatory insurance limits. So in the booklet, it's called, under the page that says new policies approved, in the middle of the page there, you can see now we mandate that everyone have insurance, and then we are dramatically increasing the minimum coverage that you have to have in this state.
Yeah, what's happening is your insurance companies are dramatically increasing the premiums. That's down the road too.
Right.
And that's going to make it doubly, triply, quadruply hard for people to actually live.
Yeah.
And if you, heaven forbid, if you've been married and had a wife and kids, and now you're paying child support on top of it.
The only good thing about the bill is only a $185 fine, isn't it? If you get caught, you have an accident, you don't have the insurance, it's only like a $185 fine.
Well, that is yet not written, because actually the mandatory insurance law doesn't go into effect until next July. So, and that is one specifically that was put into the budget at like 2 o'clock in the morning in like a handwritten amendment saying we're now going to have mandatory insurance in this state. And now they're trying to figure out, well, what did the legislature mean by that? And so they are implementing the program to ensure that everybody's going to have insurance. And initially they're looking at like a $500 fine if you are caught driving and operating a vehicle without insurance. I heard it's $500, but that's unknown yet. But what's happening is the gentleman is correct in that most people who are getting their auto insurance policy renewal notices are seeing anywhere from I've had some constituents contact me who are seeing $400 to $600 increases in their.
That's dramatic.
Yeah.
Double in coverage, you should be double in cost. I mean, it just follows.
Right,
So I-
right, that's right. I mean, you're doubling your coverage, so it doubles the cost. Another major item that was approved in the budget that's reflecting in the cost increases is what's called a stacking provision. And now if you are involved in an accident, and I'm not an expert on insurance law, so I don't know if I explained it totally correctly, but 3 vehicles, if you have up to 3 vehicles insured, all of those 3 vehicle insurance can now be pulled into your liability in a sense. So under current law, it's like $100,000 of liability that you could be required to pay. Now, 3 vehicles at that minimum will come into play, and so that lawsuit or that liability coverage could go to $300,000. And so there might be some good intention to that, but what it's really going to do is it's going to make a lot of smaller accidents much more litigious, because the trial attorneys are saying, oh, now there's $300,000 here that we could, and our client could benefit from.
So are you happy with this, or are you saying it's a good thing? Or
No, I would have, well, first of all, it should have never been done as part of the budget.
Who did the handwritten note, by the way? I was just curious.
That was a gentleman named Senator Carpenter from the Milwaukee
They
area.
can do this? They can just, in the middle of the night, just handwrite something in there with nobody noticing, and it's there?
Well, enough people who voted for it knew about it, and that's all he needed to do. Yep. But I disagree with, I support the mandatory insurance requirement.
I understand.
But it should have been done in the daylight, and we should have had a good discussion, and we should have maybe said,
Public
is
input.
this the best time to do that?
Yeah, you need public input on something like that, because
Right.
I agree with the sentiment, because I got hit by a drunk driver who was low insurance, and I know the hassle I went through. I didn't get the money I deserved.
Right.
I mean, they were trying to nickel and dime me for a couple thousand or less. When I read in the paper, someone got a $170,000 settlement, I know the difference between him and me was a broken bone. I was really upset. My attorneys claim to be a really good attorney. Matter of fact, he's advertising on your Showbook and HBO right now. I'm real irate with him. He's saying like he's a Mr. Do-It-All, and he did nothing. I looked over his shoulder. He didn't even tell me this. I saw what the other guy had on his record, and he told me he had a good case, and he drops it at the last minute. I got to reject a courier at the 11th hour. I was going to start a lawsuit on